On this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone, we're going to talk about NWA Carnyland, AEW Dark Impact Wrestling, but also we're going to do a little review and discuss on Dark Side of the Ring the final days of Owen Hart. So, let's get ready to talk about this on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone. I am J-Rod, everything all pro wrestling such as AEW, NXT, New Japan, and many other promotions, all things such as matches, you know, individuals of wrestling and all that. So before I start with NWA Carnyland, I want to give you guys an update of what's been going on. Is if you've been aware that recently former WWE superstar Shad uh, of Crime Time was announced he was missing since this past Sunday. He and his son were out for a swim down in Marina del Rey, and from what the reports are saying, that they were being pulled into the strong currents. Lifeguards and rescuers saved his son out of a request by him, but as soon as all that happened, he was pulled under by a big wave. So the search continued until 7:30 p.m. until they had to call it, and then what TMZ and several other news reports are saying, Coast Guard suspended all of the search and efforts for Shad. So it's still unclear whether he's alive or the worst case scenario. So uh, we should give prayers to Shad and his family. Hopefully, there's some good news, but if not, then you know how that is. So let's right now talk about NWA Carney, or Carnyland, as they pronounce. Okay, so as you know, ever since the start of the pandemic, where they were given the order to stay home, and many of the operations for NWA were suspended. I know NWA has been releasing some old NWA events such as NWA 30, the pop up New Year's Clash, um, a few others, and they haven't done a wrestling show for quite some time. And recently, they just a week ago, if you recall, they actually throw in a the Super Show where there were many other events of matches that they had, like such as the match between uh, who was it they had? The Villain Enterprise versus Strictly Business, and many others. And then they announced the Carnyland. Now, this is something different away from what pro wrestling is about. Each thing they had like their own segment. I don't know if they tried to keep us entertained. I don't know how to describe it, but I can tell you what I wrote down. Like they put in first like this thing with Joe Galley, that the narrator, who is Stu Bennett, had enough of him, so he's making him disappear. Kind of like a little comedy shtick or something. I don't know, but then there's this thing called the Cliche Promo 101, instructed by Allison Kay. So basically, it was like they're throwing these storylines. Like there's this one with Nick Aldis, Ziggy Dice, the Monrovia Unmasked, several other things. I mean, it's entertaining, but I know it's not wrestling. But please keep in mind, this is what has been going on. They're trying to keep us entertained as much as possible. As you know, NWA is currently in Georgia, which is their headquarters, and as you know, Florida and California are now being considered to being to let the pro sports do their own thing. It's still unclear about the other states, especially Georgia, since NWA does that. So, but I will keep an eye on that. So you guys should check out NWA Carnival and see what you guys think. I will try to link it down on the description down below as soon as possible. So that is it for now. So let's move on with AEW Dark. Hey everyone, welcome back. So right now let's talk about AEW Dark. As you know, a week ago I talked about how AEW Dark went about an hour and a half, all straight matches. Most of the matches went up to just having you know uh, having jobbers or maybe these guys who have been seen. We might see them down the line with AEW full time. We're not sure yet. Since the pandemic happened, we know that a lot of wrestlers have not been seen with AEW, such as Rio, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Um, Shauna, and who else have I haven't seen? Well, we know Penta is unable to get here, so he's stuck down in Mexico. Same thing with Pac. So many others. So let's go talk about which matches were awesome. So the first match of the night was a women's match. Was Daddy Jordan versus Hikaru Shida. Um, Well, this was a good match. I have to say, I would like to see Danny Jordan join AEW. I know she made an appearance at the NWA Circle Squared, but I feel Danny Jordan is a good fit down in AEW. But what do you guys think? But it was a good match. I'm not gonna lie about it. But of course, more of Hikaru Shida's strikes and determination, and of course, she's the number one contender for the AEW World Women Championship against Nyla. So she won this match, which I give it a thumbs up. Then we got Clutch Adams, a new guy. I never met him before, but I've seen him, versus QT Marshall. Um, QT won, as you must know, but it was a right match. I'm not gonna lie. This one was an interesting match. The third one, Jason Cade versus Marco Stunt. Um, yeah, basically, this is where you see Marco Stunt at his at best for a guy his size. I know people can, those who criticize AEW say, why do you sign that guy? He's short. He may be short, but the guy has a big heart. That's what matters. And that's what I like about Marco. And he won this. He actually showed what he can do, even as a single competitor for a guy his size. Then we had a tag team match: Lee Johnson and Musa versus Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian. It wasn't. This match was alright, but at the same time, during the end, Kip Sabian must have got hurt. He was like grouching on the side of his body, but that's what happened. And then we had no, the captain, Sean Dean versus Ray Phoenix. Excellent match. I enjoyed this one. Was one of the best high flying techniques from both men. I enjoyed it. Captain Sean Dean, he's definitely a guy I would like to see sign with AEW. We'll just wait and see. The next one we have John Cruz versus Luther. Now this one is more of a beatdown type of match. As you know, Luther is sadistic. So, if you must know, Luther won this one. We got tag team Ryan Brembrandt and Mike Reed versus Private Party. It was a good match. I'm not gonna lie. It was like I enjoyed it. It was great. I enjoyed the dynamics, what they were doing. But Private Party took the victory as always. Next match, Alan Angels. As you know, he's been making headways, saying he can hang with the best wrestlers that AEW can offer. And that guy he had to face was the Spanish god Sammy Guevara. But as you all know, this is one match I also say was good. I don't know if you guys would like to see Alan Angels as a full-time AEW wrestler on the roster, but if you do, give a thumbs up, click like, or say you want to see him down in the bottom. Now the final match was Serpentico, a mass wrestler, versus Darby Allin. This one was like a more like a brutal match of both sides. More uh, Serpentico, he's much like Darby, but much a little bit more of the Hispanic side. But it was good. I'm not gonna lie. But Darby won the match. But like I said, this event was an hour and a half long. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But if you must know, there's a trade secret. Apparently, there's a wrestler who wrestled there twice, and I'm not going to tell you who. I'll let you figure that one out. So, that's the clue of the day. Who is the wrestler that wrestled twice? I know who it is. I'm not going to tell you. So, I think that's it for now for AEW Dark. So, let's move on to Impact Wrestling. Okay, so let's talk about Impact Wrestling. So, they started out with the recap of last week about the number one contender spot that took place. Basically, this is a tournament where who will be the one to face Tessa Blanchard for the Impact World Title. As we all know, Michael Elgin has been trying to be that guy, saying that he deems worthy to be champion because he should have been champion. He's the best. But at the same time, he took out Ken Shamrock, who Shamrock already made his decision, had his eyes to get his hands on the title. And Michael Elgin wasn't going to let that happen. He wasn't going to let a guy like Ken Shamrock take away what is his. So he took him out. Now, we even had the recap of Moose. If you all know, Moose has been self-proclaiming himself that he is the TNA World Champion, even though that title is not inactive. But he keeps saying he is a champion, that he beat RVD, he beat Rhino, he beat many wrestlers who were part of TNA. That doesn't mean, but he's living in the world of delusions, which he claims he is the true champion. So, we just gotta wait and see when Tessa comes back what she had to say about that. Now, the first match we had is the number one contenders. Now, like I said, Ken Shamrock was taken out by Ken Shamrock. Originally, it was supposed to be Ken Shamrock versus Rhino. So, it turned out to be Ace Austin versus Rhino. So, this one is a perfect opportunity for Ace Austin, for a guy who dominated the X Division. The X Division, now he wants to step up his game. I have to say, he really stepped it up more, but he used his tricks as always to ensure he finds a way to win, like distracting the ref, pulled out one of his sticks that he normally uses, magic trick sticks that he uses, and he pulled off the win that way. And I think he might face who's he facing? I forgot. I'll explain that next week because they're continuing the tournament. Josh Matthews actually did another interview with Moose. Moose is still being that same guy who doesn't want. He's still claiming himself to be the champion, despite the fact that Tessa's not there. But we are expecting to see Tessa down the line. We're not sure yet. As you know, she lives in Mexico along with her real life boyfriend, or should I say fiance, Daga. So we just gotta wait and see what happens. Then we see Tasha Steelz just minding her own business. She is approached by Kara Hogan. As you know, Kara Hogan is still suffering from the loss that she had against what's her name, Kylie Ray, and Tasha a week ago lost against her. I think they're, but as you know, Susie is now becoming friends with Kylie Ray, so they're willing to face both of them. So they want to teach those two a lesson, like you're not here to be all sunshine and rainbows, that type of thing. Then we see a match between Dave Chris alongside OVE's Jake and Murdoch. This one was the return of Crazy Steve. This was an interesting match, but during the match, Joseph P. Ryan of Cancel Culture shows up taking notes on Crazy Ryan because he thinks that the word crazy is offensive, you know? So basically, he's just scouting out. And this match turned out crazy the way it turned out. Crazy Steve picked up the win, and all of a sudden, Madman Fulton lost it right in the post match. He completely feels that he is part of the losing team since Sammy is no longer part of OVE. So he just told both Chris brothers he quits, and he walked away. So basically, OVE is now in shambles. Sammy is not there. Fulton's losing his control, and now it's just the Chris brothers. So we don't know what's going to happen then. Then we see a little segment with Rosemary and Mr. Mundo, the little doggy hairy stuffed animal. Then all of a sudden, here comes Johnny E. Bravo, who is still not liking what Rosemary's antics, but Rosemary tried to convince him why you're still stuck with Taya after all the crap he's putting her through, knowing that he's being assaulted by her because everything she ever does, it never satisfies her. Johnny Bravo thinks that that's how she loves her, but Rosemary doesn't believe that. She has a mind set what Taya thinks. But we just gotta wait and see where they're gonna go with it. And here comes the next match. Is a tag team match. Triple XL versus TJP and Falaba. This one was unbelievable. I have to say, hands down, one of the best matches of the night. I enjoyed how this dynamic is. At Triple XL, these huge guys versus Falaba. You got one guy who's huge, one guy who does high flying. But I love how this dynamic turned of the match between that because I've always, like I said, I've been a fan of tag teams. This is one of those matches that really got me impressed. And TJP really stepped it up, against these huge guys. And Fahaba is just only one guy. And right in the end, TJP and Fahaba got their win. And this is a big deal for them. Now, they could be in down the line for a tag team championship route, but we just got to win C, pay attention to them. So if you guys are fans of TJP and Fahaba, pay attention to them. Then we have, oh, a second chance. The world, you know what? It's Moose versus Suicide, but I'll just skip ahead. But no, never mind. Not gonna skip ahead. This one was, I think this match was way better than the first one. Really dynamic. It kind of gave like that whole spoof where Suicide is determined to win, but is he trying to win a title that's not even active, or win that he proves that he can still hang with the guys like Moose, who is huge? But I enjoyed it. But as always, Moose still claims he's the champion, regardless. Like I said, we just gotta wait and see what Tessa thinks. But Moose won the match. This one was way better than the first one. Then we have the X Division Championship between Willie Mack versus Johnny Swinger. As you know, Johnny Swinger is trying to pretend that he's friends with Willie Mack, the Mack and Pack connection, even though there was no Mack and Pack. Chris Bay stirs some stiff up, saying that he wouldn't give him a title shot. But truth to be told, Mack never did want to hang with Johnny from the start due to the fact that he's weird, he's cocky, he thinks he knows everything. And of course, that's what happened. Uh, there was a moment where he thought he won, but he didn't. Mac had his foot right on the rope, and the ref is telling him that the match still continues. He didn't win. Even though after that he tried to knock out Mac with the belt, didn't do any good. It kind of spoiled the plans. He retained his title. But Johnny continued to beat him down, and then here comes Chris Bay, who could potentially be next in line for an X Division title match. It's still not confirmed yet, but maybe next week will be, or it will announce on the social media, either on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. So we just gotta wait and see where they're gonna go with this one. Then we see at the Battle Arts Academy between the North. Now, as you know, Josh Alexander has not been happy with Ethan Page with his antics. Like, Josh is looking for a much bigger challenge. He wants someone who is a tag team that is worthy for them. But here comes Cody Deaner, and of course, he said he will fight, but there's only one problem. Cousin Jake is stuck in the U.S. while Cody Deaner's in Canada. But he did state it. He'll get a member from his extended family. Another Deaner. So, we don't know who this Deaner is, but I'm excited to see. So, it's going to take place next week at the Deaner compound. That you got to watch. And then we go to the main event, another number one contender, Michael Elgin versus Sami Callihan. Now, as you all recall, Michael took out, what's his name? Ken Shamrock. Now, Michael, for months, he's been trying to prove that he is well worthy to become champion, that he deserved it because of his accomplishments. But he has to go through a lot of obstacles. So, right now, he's going to through Sami Callihan. Now, keep in mind, Sami is still injured from that leg lock, that ankle lock that he sustained from Shamrock. Basically, Michael Elgin already has his side on. He always like, I got you, I see you. It was a great match. I'm not gonna lie, it was good. I enjoyed how this one turned, but the match ended with Michael Elgin, so um, I think he might be facing Trey in the tournament. So I'm still unclear how's it gonna go. I'm predicting Michael will be in the finals, and I'm thinking either Ace Austin or I don't know who else, but yeah, but we'll see how that goes. So that is it for now for Impact. So let's talk about next Dark Side of the Ring. All right, so Dark Side of the Ring. If you guys been watching, the season finale was about Owen Hart. Now we can talk about Owen Hart. What a great wrestler he was. Great, athletic. He was charismatic. But the story is about what happened to him, about his untimely demise, as we call it. This his death led to a lot of controversy. Basically, what was happening. Um, to understand this, we need to go back to how this went too far. From what I understand, the way I look at it, this changed right after the Montreal Screwjob. If you all recall, this was the match where Bret Hart got betrayed and screwed by the WWE because of the creative differences. And Owen Hart, he tried to get out from his contract, but no, they needed a Hart family to be there. That's from what I understand from what Martha Hart, Owen's widow, was talking about. And basically, he stayed. But there was a story where he did not like it, where they put him that he's having an affair with Deborah Marshall. If you all recall, she was Jeff Jarrett's valet, and in real life, she actually married to Steve Austin. But Owen Hart did not like this type because it feels like he's disrespecting his marriage. He takes family first, more importantly than anything in the world. Because he talked about this, about how he wants to be there for his kids, and he takes time off to ensure he's there for them. And that is what makes him a great human being. He puts his family first. And in that kind of thing, it shows who Bret Hart is by listening to his widow and his son Oj and his daughter Athena. But what I think caused this is because of what happened. Now, if you all recall, the reason of his death was because WWE were looking at what WCW at the time were looking at. Who could forget Sting coming from the Raptors? So WWE or WWF at the time were trying to do that. And I mean, they didn't do exactly the accelerate, just lowered down slowly. But Martha described the time before his untimely demise, about when she picked him up at the airport and saying that she got a call from someone from the say they need his measurements for a harness. And she was confused knowing that, wait a minute, you guys, he was just with you guys and you didn't take his measurements. It was, for her, that kind of was a bit of suspicions of what happened. And of course, if we all recall, and this is what happened. This is from what JR and this ref, forgot his name, mentioned of that night. The ref said he was just there by the rafters, the ring rope. Then something hit and it just bounced back. He didn't know what it was until he looked down and saw Owen was down, and Jim Ross is like, "Cannot believe this is happening. Like, is this for real?" And everything was not good. Even D'Lo Brown was talking about that night that he could never forget how that is. Same thing with The Godfather, who he was scheduled to face. And it's very, how do I say this, traumatic for them. I know they play this a bunch of times in their heads of that night. And of course, Vince had to be the one to tell Martha what was going on. She wanted answers. And that's when the war between her and WWE or WWF at the time took place. As you know, Martha has no intentions of gaining any money. Her true intention was to get justice for Owen and to have WWE to be held accountable to their actions to make her husband do this stunt. And that was the problem. And she initially, as we know, if you guys know this or not, she would never allow WWE to put him in the Hall of Fame. She's calling right now, and I heard this from Square Circle Psychobabble, the WWE Hall of Fame, a bunch of garbage. And I'll explain that to you guys a little bit. So basically, right now, but when she mentioned this to the family, what was going on, the half of the family just stayed silent. The other half just were not in support of Martha. Now she has no grudge against the family, but all she ever wanted was justice for Owen. But the reason the family couldn't get through with this is because the family has been good to them all this time, and how can we forget that? We've seen Bruce, Smith, Ross, who else? Owen, Brett, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, um, British Bulldog, and then we see Natalia, T.J. T.J. Wilson, um, Davey Boy Smith Jr. These guys were part of the Hart family that made them what they are, and WWE has always been good to them for years. But in the end, I think Athena said this from her mouth, that wrestling took took her father, and I don't blame her. I know it's been hard on her losing her dad at a young age, and it's definitely disturbing. And as you must know, both Owen's kids are involved in wrestling. His son Oj, he's an attorney. His daughter Athena is a nurse. It's great to see now that this Hart family right here are not following the family footstep, but I don't blame them for what's going on. But Martha does have all the paperwork, all the evidence to suggest that what really happened. She said this clip that was somehow holding uh, Owen somehow got loose. That was the evidence she wanted to show. But as you know, this whole thing settled out of court somewhere around 18 million. But she cared nothing for that money. She wanted WWE to be held accountable for it, and that kind of made perfect sense. I don't blame her. I mean, I understand you want justice, but WWE is all about forgetting what happened and moving forward. Now, there was a situation. Now, some people believe, you can ask many people. There was Jim Cornette, as we know. We can say he's a sleazeball, but he does make a compelling point. Why wasn't the event stopped to begin with when Owen had his accident? What happened is they just moved his body and took him to the hospital, but they did not stop to collect evidence what really happened that night. And it kind of made more, how do I say this, like they were hiding something. They had 5 matches they had to finish, but they believed that Over the Edge, this pay-per-view, the night that Owen Hart died, was a load of garbage, that they should have stopped it, but it didn't happen. Now, we can agree, Vince has an ego. He doesn't want to lose money because he has a lot of writing on this. And Jim Ross can say the same thing. He said it. They should have stopped it. They didn't. Cornette said the same thing. They should have stopped it. But no, it did not stop. And that's the reason we haven't seen Over the Edge repeating too many times, because of that. And it's kind of mind blowing how this whole thing went. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, I will try to link up that episode on the description down below. So I think that's it for today on Wrestling Tuesday. As you know, I watch 3 wrestling shows and Dark Side of the Ring relates to wrestling. So I think that's about it. Hope you guys are staying safe. You're washing your hands. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.